He is comedian Mike Birbiglia. Look, you're looking younger than ever.
Thanks.
What's going on over there? You look great.
I'm working. Trying. I don't know.
Now, this is a special moment for me because my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, lost her mind when I told her that you were coming in. She has no idea that you're a comedian. She just knows you from the Taylor Swift video.
I get this.
I'm sure it's ruining your life. I'm sorry.
No, I like it. It's just hilarious. I mean, it's just people don't have any idea what I do.
Did it impress your daughter? Because she's of that Taylor Swift age.
She's been playing. We were just talking off air. She's doing ukulele lessons, and she's 8. And she does, she plays Shake It Off and Bad Blood and ukulele. And she's great, Of course I say that, She's a genius.
Sure.
I'm sorry to take up so much airtime with this, but my daughter is 8 and she's a musical genius. And we all know what's going to happen. She's going to be in the Hall of Fame soon. But no, she's great. And we're gonna take her to the Taylor concert.
My girls have seen it
in a week.
That'll be great.
Yeah, we're pretty excited.
Mike, do you get comps for that show?
I don't think so.
You're in the video.
No, but
which one? Where are you going to go see it?
MetLife in Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's out. Is that outdoors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yikes.
It's where the Giants and the Jets play.
Because I know the one of the ones in Nashville, there was a 4-hour rain delay.
I saw the footage on Instagram. She's a trooper, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She played fully in the rain till like 2 a.m. or something. That was outrageously cool. But I was so lucky I got to be in that video and it was one of the most. She directed it and wrote it and it was just a phenomenally cool experience.
And I didn't know you were in it, and so my girl Finn, who's 10, comes over. We have to watch the video, Dad. So we're watching the video, and I go, wait a minute, I know that guy. So she really lost her mind. So we'll have to take a picture today so I can prove that I've met you. Mike Birbiglia is our guest. Mike is a distinguished comedian and an actor too, and a writer and director. But you just concluded a Broadway stint.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it was a show called The Old Man and the Pool, and we did 12 weeks on Broadway, 85 performances, and then in about a week, we're going to announce that we're taking the show, I can't even say where, but overseas for a very cool bunch of shows.
Great.
In the fall, yeah.
Now, when you do that, do you have to go back and listen to it a bunch to get, even though you've done it hundreds of times?
Oh, yeah.
Did your mind, do you just like shelve it and it goes away?
Yeah, my brain's a little scrambled because like I'm doing I'm at clubs right now and I'm working on like my next show, next hour comedy, and so then I got to go back and rememorize that show.
When you're working on a new hour, when you first get out there, do you have to fall back on some of the previous show and things get a little slow if you're trying something that's not working?
I don't usually, but I find one of the things that's shocking is every now and then you'll do stuff from the show that was on Broadway and was a hit, blah blah, and you go and it's just dying, and you go like, well, there's nothing I can do at this point.
Yeah. This just isn't the show.
I get this is I've done this for 400,000 people at this point. And, they seem to like it, but I guess it's not as bulletproof as I thought.
Now, when you're taking this thing overseas to a country you can't mention,
yes,
will there have to be adjustments made for specific American-type references or English language issues that might crop up? And will you know that in advance, or will you test it out?
The biggest one, like last summer I went to Paris and London and Iceland, and the biggest one is in the show I talk a lot about going to the YMCA pool, and when I was a kid I went to the YMCA a lot. And the reason I remember is I hated everything about it. It was wet and sweaty, and I always say it smelled like, when you're a kid and your friend breaks their arm, they let you smell under their cast. It's like if that smell became a building, and then someone just sprayed too much chlorine on it, and I have just a whole run like. about how, I don't think, and I'm sure I feel like, Tom, you have the same level of neurosis about this. I don't think they're using the right amount of chlorine at the YM. Like I don't know what the hell kind of heinous crime they're covering up with that chlorine, but something went down. Like there was a mob hit in the middle of the night. Bunch of goons are like, do we dig a ditch or do we bring the body down to the YMCA pool? I got a family membership. We use a guest pass for the corpse. We drop it in the pool. It disintegrates within 6 hours. It's a lot of chlorine.
So was that a non-relatable over there, or did you have
I had to adjust into like the rec center. I went to the YMCA pool. I used to go to it's kind of like how you folks have the rec center here, and like that, and then it's fine. Like, it's amazing how with jokes, as long you can even be over talk it, but if they just need to know what their comp is on it.
Mm-hmm. So they overchlorinate at the rec center.
Apparently.
It's universal.
Same problem.
How cool. That's great. Mike Birbiglia is our guest. And are you still playing the guitar a little bit?
I do a little bit. I got an awesome. Pat was just asking me. I
Oh,
just got a new guitar after like 10 years. I was in Nashville. I actually have my Ryman Auditorium shirt on, but one of my favorite bands is Milk Carton Kids, and this guy Kenneth Pattingale in the group has a Martin modeled after him, and I just bought that recently. It's one of those guitars. No matter how bad you are, and I'm really bad, it makes you sound pretty good. So my daughter, who is a genius, it doesn't matter. I'm able to play little duets with her on ukulele.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's catch up a little bit more with Mike Birbiglia. You've been living in New York City for quite some time now.
I live in Brooklyn. I live with my wife and daughter, and I was just thinking of you guys the other day because we took my daughter for Mother's Day to see her grandmother in Florida, and it's very, very sunny, and she got freckles, and my wife got freckles, and she said a pretty good joke. She goes to my wife, she goes, it's like you took you drank freckle juice, except it worked. I mean, she's 8.
Yeah.
She's 8 years old. That's a pretty good joke, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then my wife, a few minutes later, she goes, it's like you took freckle juice, except it worked. And then Una starts crying to me. I go, what's wrong? She goes, Mom stole my joke. And I go, welcome to being a grown-up.
Yeah, welcome to being a comedian. And you ever know one of those comedians in the green room? Everyone else's joke, they say. I did that. I hated having freckles as a kid. Hated it.
Oh, really?
I think it's a gorgeous quality.
I couldn't stand it. And I call freckle face all the time. And
Were you really?
They faded.
This explains a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I'm full of hate. Don't get yourself...
No pubes, freckle face, right?
Yeah, you really
Pubes came very late to me.
Yeah,
that was a big problem.
Piglet, yeah, right.
Yeah, hence my hate of most jocks.
Sure.
But
that's what I've noticed about 8 years old is where I'm finding I can relate to my daughter. Like, she'll come home from school and she'll go, Margaret doesn't want me to be friends with Alice. She only wants me to be friends with Margaret. And I'll be like, well, Margaret doesn't get to decide who you're friends with. And Una goes, pfft. And I was like, I know what you mean. You know what I mean? It's like the first time we really got each other. But don't you think, Tom, I mean, well, you and Christy are probably the most experienced parents in the room. It's like, don't you think your kids at a certain point, pretty early, they start to have the same problems as we do?
Oh, yeah.
I'm dealing with it right now.
Yeah.
The exact thing you're talking about. It was an issue with who can sit next to who on the bus, going to the field day, and blah, blah, blah. You hate that mean girl thing that kicks in.
Oh, and junior high's the worst.
I've put it.
I'm sorry.
I was
Eighth
just
grade.
I was just talking to a friend of mine who has a 3-year-old, and I said, my dad used to tell me there's nothing better in this world than a 3 or a 4-year-old. And I always tap it with, you'll never hear anyone say, 13, that's a great age.
Yeah.
Never been spoken.
Well, she's 8, right? And so it's wonderful, but I'm not able to live in the present. So all I can do in my mind is flash forward to when she's 16 and she's like, "My dad is garbage," you know. And when I was a kid, we didn't listen. Nobody listened to kids. But now I'm gonna have to be like, "She's so brave. I am garbage. She's so right. We need to raise her platform." You know what I mean?
Yeah. So 3, 4, that's the best age, huh, Tom? Is that why you keep having them?
Yeah.
And that's how Christy brings it up.
There it is.
They
It could have
age
been an
out?
offline thing.
I mean, I would rather spend time with a 4-year-old than almost any adult that I know. They're just they're so great the way they see the world. It rubs off on you. You start feeling
Yeah.
great about it. Start feeling great about life.
Plus, you can tell them what the reality is, and they don't question you.
Yeah, they believe. Remember
Yeah,
when you
they believe
believed-
anything. Yeah.
Always a good excuse to
that's
get
what-
ice cream.
That's what
Yeah.
you like to do. Yeah.
Remember when you thought your teacher in your like you're till about 3rd grade? I think you think your teachers are always right.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I remember being 18, saying something in a college class that I learned from you, and then looking around the room, and everyone looked at me like I was an idiot, and I was like, "Oh, my dad is also an idiot. He's not always
I thought that was going in a different direction.
Do you remember what it was?
I do, but I don't want to say it on air.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave it right there. Is that okay?
It was the conspiracy theory about World War II. No, it was when
King Ferdinand.
when Una was I remember when Una was 3, I was reading her this book about penguins, and I just made up a goofy. When they're that young, like Tom's saying, they're joyous. You know, you can make up jokes, and they think they're great. I go, "What does the penguin say to her parents when she's hungry?" And she says, "What?" And I said, "What'll we have for dinner?" And she's like, "Ah!" You know, and because she's like, "What'll we have for dinner?" Because 1, kids love puns, and 2, all toddlers sort of have a Boston accent. They're like, "I'm tired," and Boston toddlers are like, "I'm wicked tired."
That's about true. Mike Birbiglia is our guest. And Mike has been doing stand-up comedy since you were living in Washington, D.C. in college.
Yeah.
Was that your first time?
I've been doing this 25 years now. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I walked in here. I walked in this room 20 years ago. I mean, this has got to be 20th anniversary of me coming on the show.
Yeah, and then you probably don't remember this, but you and I kind of became friends because I was driving down the road.
You mean kind of friends?
Kind of insulting.
I mean beyond the show.
Okay.
No, I think we're friends. We're friends.
No.
We see each other outside the show, chick, just because you don't.
No. I don't go anywhere.
Doesn't make it that I don't.
I'm locked down.
So I'm driving down the road.
Lockdown.
And there's a guy in a hoodie walking. Is like the 2 p.m, and it was. And I realized that's the guy that was on our show yesterday, and it was Mike Birbiglia. So I stopped, and you were walking to a Starbucks.
Yeah.
And so I picked you up, and we went over to Starbucks. You started coming on all of our trips down to the Bahamas. We had a blast. Got to meet your brother Joe. So we've known you for a long time. And I say this to preface the following:
What?
you are a professional comedian.
That's correct.
Oh,
So
God.
That's all correct.
yes. So I'll put it this way.
Okay.
I always put it this way. Even Tiger Woods takes an occasional golf lesson. So as a professional comedian, with all due respect, we would like to school you a little bit in comedy. Ladies and gentlemen.
Who's that sexy man with a deep voice? Ace Cosby, here he is with his joke of the day.
Getting worried. I went to the deli yesterday.
Yeah.
Said I want to buy a bagel with cream cheese. And the kid behind the counter says, "Sorry, we only take cash or credit cards."
That was
Sure.
Ace Cosby's joke of the day.
Cream cheese is not a form of currency.
That's a great joke.
Yes, of course.
That's a great
Yeah,
joke.
if you're 8.
Oh, come on. That's a strong joke.
Do you remember the first time you were on stage? Was it when you were a doorman at the
Washington D.C. Improv? Yeah, I was actually I entered I went to college at Georgetown in D.C. and I entered the funniest person on campus contest. I was actually back there recently, like 2 weeks ago, and I walked up on the stage and it was in front. It was this place called Gaston Hall. It was in front of 600 people. I did stand up for the first time. Wow. And it was shocking because it was like, oh wow, this is a scary place to do stand up for the first time. And I won this contest, and Nick Kroll was in the contest too. That's how he and I met, and then we became friends and worked on a bunch of stuff together. And And then, I got the chance to work the door at the DC Improv. I opened for Dave Chappelle and Brian Regan and all these, Margaret Cho, all these great comics. And George Lopez has just kind of studied. That was comedy college for me, working the door. I always say to young comics, like, coming up, is like, try to get a job at a comedy club because you get to watch the comics for free. Because I remember in college, I couldn't afford to go to a comedy club. I went to Flip Orley. You ever meet Flip Orley, comic hypnotist?
No.
So when I was in college,
I love
No,
something.
but I want to.
Yeah, I do now.
the first comedy club I ever went to was DC Improv. I went to Flip Orley, comic hypnotist, and afterwards I'm like, well, that's all the money I have. You know what I mean? Like I was fully broke. I was like, I guess I'm never going back to a comedy club. And then I got a job working the door, and then I could get to see everybody. And you just study these people.
Do you remember your first joke?
Oh gosh, my jokes early on were so just ridiculous because the first joke that I had that landed was I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and I said she's starting to get to the age where she's thinking about having kids, which is sad because we're going to have to break up. Because I've decided I'm not going to have kids until I'm sure that nothing else good can happen in my life. And I still feel that way, except I have a child. But that was the first time I had a joke where like it worked and I understood why it worked, if that makes sense. Like I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of how I feel. But you wouldn't say it in polite company.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm on to something there. And then it ended up being sort of the basis. I used that joke in my movie Sleepwalk With Me, in the show Sleepwalk With Me, as kind of like a pivotal point. But early on, I was like, I would do jokes about nothing. I would do, I'd hate to be a stick insect because all the other insects are always bumping into you and you got to be like, watch it. And they're like, you look like a stick. And you're like, yeah, I have eyes. And they're like, yeah, they were closed. That's the whole joke. I love that. That's it. That's the whole joke.
I swear, I love that bit. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you.
I love that too. Great.
He turns it in, hey, watch it.
Mike Birbiglia is our guest, and his Broadway show.
So the old man in the pool.
It may be resurfacing in an electronic medium sometime.
Correct.
But you are taking it live to another continent.
That's all correct. And
Okay.
they'll know in a week. If you sign up on birbigs.com for the mailing list, you can get the newsletter. And it'll be a broad place that you might want to visit in September because it's just spectacular there.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Good hint.
No hints. You just won't need Rosetta Stone.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's quite a hint. New York Subway is wild. I was on the other day, and a person took off their shoes on the side. I was like,
Yeah.
And then they took off their pants. Same person. And I was like, oh, I long for the good old days when they just took off their shoes. Those were the good times. I didn't know how good I had it. And then, but what was wild about the scenario is that it was one of those situations where it was a lady took off her pants, and before that, she seemed like she had it together.
Oh.
Like I was like, maybe she's a CPA or a notary or something. And then she took the pants off, and I was like, something's up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm no detective, but something's afoot.
Your name is rather ungainly. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think ungainly is the right word.
Kind.
Yeah.
Were you-
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, I remember Jimmy. Okay, when I was in college, I went to the alumni house at Georgetown, and I looked up comedian. I was like, I want to be a comedian. And I look up, have there been any here? There was one, and it was Jim Gaffigan.
Oh.
And I just called him. This is the 90s. I called his landline. He's like, hello?
Yeah, that's Jim.
Hello? Hasn't changed an inch. And I go, hey, I'm a comedian. I'm in college, blah, blah. And you go, well, if you're ever in New York, call me. I'll take, we get lunch. I'll give you thoughts. And so I go, I call a few days later. I took a bus to New York. I'm like, I'm here. I mean, it was literally just for that reason. I meet him at Patsy's Pizzeria on the Upper West Side, and he doesn't show up for 2 hours. And I'm just sitting there. And people, when I've told people this story, they go, "Why didn't you leave?" I go, I had nowhere to go. Yeah. There wasn't a plan. There wasn't a plan B. That's why I came to New York. I was just going to stay till they closed. And he gave me a couple pieces of advice, and they were great. But the one that I didn't take him up on is he goes, "You got to change that name." He goes, Birbiglia. He says, nobody's going to be able to say Birbiglia. and he's not wrong. But I think that here's the case for having a long name, an elaborate 9-letter Italian name, is once people get it, they remember it because it took them a second to figure it out. And they're like, I got it.
Yeah.
And then they get it.
Yeah.